Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Aftershocks of Afterloss. I am Rachel Donnelly and I am with Black Dress Consultants. And tonight I'm super excited to have Emily Bootle with, um, with DeathCare BC joining us. So I'm going to get her on here. And hold on, now where is she? There she is. She's coming. Let's see. Hold on, everybody. Just hold on one sec.
Okay.
Hi, there you are.
It took a little while. I was thinking about it.
Yeah, those mice had to work extra hard to drum up that connection from Atlanta to Vancouver. So it just took a little.
Yeah. I was like, hold on.
I'm like, it's happening. I can feel it. It's coming.
Awesome. Well, we're on. This is my first Instagram Live. It's very exciting.
What? Yeah. I didn't. Okay, I thought you told me you've done this before. Okay, well, all right. Well, totally. You're a IG Live virgin, so we're gonna we're just gonna plow through. No, that's a really bad thing to say. We're not gonna plow through this. That sounded really bad. Like let's back it up. Let's restart. So anyway, everybody, welcome to the Aftershocks of Afterloss. I am Rachel Donnelly with Black Dress Consultants, and I'm so excited to have Emily Bootle with DeathCare BC. And it's so funny when I posted about this, you know, everybody's like, Emily is an icon.
No. I'm sure that was like my 3 friends who follow.
Well, just so supportive. We should just go with it. I think we should go with that. You're an icon. So tell everybody, Miss Icon, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm a funeral director and I'm an embalmer in Vancouver, BC. And I am also the vice president of the Green Burial Society of Canada.
I didn't know that.
Another thing I do, and got feather in my cap.
And is that Canadian Green Burial Society? Or?
Yeah, so there's Green Burial Council is in the US, and they actually do like a much wider breadth of certification. They do sort of products as well as funeral homes and cemeteries. And right now, Green Burial Society of Canada, we're primarily focused on cemeteries.
Oh, okay.
We're going to start branching out soon, but we want to make sure we do it right. I am a partner with a holistic micro funeral home in Vancouver called KORU Cremation Burial Ceremony. And I'm very passionate about all things family empowerment and family education. So that's most of the work that I do with DeathCare BC is just making sure that people in my area know what their options are, that they know kind of what's out there, and that they feel that they can enter end of life or after death plans with all the information to make basically good informed decisions. So those are the things I'm passionate about.
Well, yeah, and also getting into inflatable pink caskets, but we'll touch on that a little bit. So, but I loved how you talked about that, how to let families with families in mind know their options. And you know, I was doing more research about KORU cremation, and you know, it talks about death care redefined. So with that in mind of giving people different options and what that means to redefine death care. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I think to understand how you're redefining something, it's good to define it first. So our current model of death care I think it's probably the same in Georgia as it is in British Columbia, is that we've got a framework that's built around funeral homes and funeral providers, and what is the funeral home offering, and how can they help you?
Right.
And so we are really comfortable with that model. Sorry, loud car. We're very comfortable with that model because it's what we're used to in the last 50 to 100 years.
Oh, yeah. So 1,000 years. Yeah. I mean, it's.
Yeah, for a long time, we've got these experts. And I like to draw a lot of parallels between birth and death. So we used to have birth at home. We used to have, wise women who looked after the birthing and the babies. And those wise women were also the people who looked after the dying and the dead. And so this was, we're talking over 100 years ago when our communities were a lot smaller and people kind of knew a little bit more about their neighbors. So we've come away from basically an old definition, and what we, after a lot of talking, came to is that we're going back to those fundamentals. And so the redefining is actually just a returning to, which is a time when people knew what the funeral directors did, if they had them, or they just did the work themselves. And so the fundamentals of death care is really, it's an informed family as much as possible who are maybe able or willing to take on parts of the work that we're just not used to taking on anymore.
It's so foreign to us. And so you're right. I mean, you're sort of reintroducing, educating people on what used to be some of the norms, and then trying to offer that. So I love that.
And it's trying to offer it, this is why the education piece is so important, because people don't come into the funeral home asking for that. They don't ask for, I want to have a vigil at home, for example, or I want to be the one that bathes my mom, or I want to be the one who dresses them, or let me put the casket together, things like that, which that's exactly who used to do those things. It was the family. But people don't realize that they can ask for those. That
is basically on the menu. I mean, for lack of a better word.
It's on the menu. And it may not be on the menu at every funeral home, but having the language and the ability to ask for it is a huge part of it. And so those are, it's something that we offer to every family. Whether or not people take us up on that is totally in their court, but more often than not.
You may be planting the seeds for down the road, if they do have another death in the family, that they're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. And I was hesitant at first, but I've thought about it now. And I really want to do that this time around with my dad versus my mom. So we plant the seeds and letting them know that this is on the menu for later, I think will really just, like you said, educate them and give them a wider perspective.
And it's not for everybody. And I think that's the whole key, is that, cremation rate is very high in BC, and a lot of people have cremation, have very little interaction with the body. We're quite far away from that now. And so this is such a huge departure from what they're expecting to hear when they talk to a funeral home. A lot of people call and they just want you to just take care of it. Just, do whatever you do behind the curtain, but just get it done, and get it done for,
I don't want
a price that I can understand. I don't want to know. And so when we come back to them and we go, well, do you want to spend time with their body? We don't say viewing, we don't use visitation or funeral service,
or
we go, do you want to spend time with them? Because you're not imposing an idea when you say it that way. You're presenting an option. And so people go, oh, well, I don't know, or maybe, or, and introducing, did you want to assist with dressing? Do you want to assist with cosmetics? Do you want, to assist with placing them in the casket? It's something that is confusing for some people at first, but then once you've offered it, you've legitimized it. And if they've got the presence of mind to take you up on it, then it can be really incredible. And I've seen such transformative experiences for families when they can be in the room with their loved one and participate in their care. Those families just feel like bosses. They just, it's something that you maybe wouldn't even realize, but when you've told a family, like, look, how about before we come and get your mom, if you want to do some bathing at home, if you want to dress her in an outfit, if you want to keep her there for, a few hours or a day or 2 days, you can do that. And then by the time we come and we get her, that family goes like, they know exactly what they're doing, and they feel like they've got control in the situation. They feel like they are empowered in the situation, and it's such a departure from our usual experience, which is a professional taking things out of your hands.
Yeah.
And so it's which is for better, for worse, that really is what some people want.
Absolutely. But, I mean, it's all about your preference, but I think you're empowering families to give them, that choice. And I'm the same way about education, just letting people know what is on the menu, what are their options, and then figuring out what works best, for them. And I know when we talked, I thought this was very interesting. You were telling me about, I guess, a bathing room that you guys are crafting, building at the funeral home. Well, we don't call it funeral home at your.
It's a funeral. Okay. We're a licensed funeral home. There's no other good word for it. Yeah, it's a funeral business. I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, we're building a bathing room. Exactly.
So what will that look like, and we don't have to get in every nitty gritty, but what will the process look like? You will offer that to families?
Yeah. So what we do right now when we offer families, we have a third-party facility that we use for sheltering our bodies and for the care as well. And so what we do right now is we say, if you want to assist with the dressing, then we can arrange that, and we have to get the venue, like a facility rented, and we have a table that we set up, and we get everyone ready, and we do it in their space. And so what bringing it into our own space means is that we will be able to tell families, like, you can come to us, and we have our own morgue now. We've got our own bathing room and our own gathering space. And so if they want to participate in the whole thing, or, just the very end, just, painting some fingernails, then they can come in right at the end, and it's all in one space. Right. So we do like pre-planning. Every funeral offers pre-arranging and whatnot. A really important part of pre-arranging from our perspective is conversation around what that care looks like. So those are the families who come to us and feel really ready to ask for what they need. And so, like, I did a pre-arrangement recently with a woman who, she doesn't have kids, is not married. She just wanted to look after it all so that her neighbor didn't have to do it. Yeah. And when I talked to her about what we were building, that we've got this bathing room that we're setting up, she said that when her mom died when she was in her 20s, in her early 20s, and this would have been in the 50s. Okay. 50s, early 60s. She said when her mom died, she asked the funeral home if she could do her mom's hair and makeup, because she was very particular in the way that she did it. Yeah. And they told her no. And they told her that was a private part of the facility, that no families allowed back there, and just let their staff take care of it. And she said when she went to the funeral, she just didn't look right, that her mom didn't look right. And so, she doesn't have her own kids, so that wasn't something that was going to be for her. Right. But I think even just knowing that it exists was something that she was able to kind of smile about and go, well, wouldn't that have been nice? Yeah. To have had the door open to that.
How heartbreaking for her, and I'm so glad that we've made so many steps towards changing that whole experience. I mean, we're not to where we want to be. There's still a lot of miles to ride, but I mean, that's just heartbreaking for her. So
yeah, and I think it's, it just takes an opening of the mind. And like if you're talking about green burial or go-friendly death and things like that and family involvement, it's not until people start doing it and people start talking about it that it can become a part of the culture and become normalized and can become part of the definition of death care.
Yeah.
And then we're not having to redefine it anymore. It's just to give it, that sense of it's somewhere in our like limbic system, like in our lizard brain, that goes like, I know how to do this.
Yeah.
And like it's sad.
Yeah.
And it's hard and it's not always pretty, but that we know how to do it and that we can provide care to our dear ones is just enormously empowering. So it's so valuable.
Well, let's sort of, and if you're just joining us, I'm here with Emily Bootle, the icon, the woman, from DeathCare BC. And let's sort of transition. I know we've talked a lot about your work at KORU, but let's talk, about, and they may intersect a lot, but your work with DeathCare BC and how those, like I said, those two worlds intersect and how they're different.
Yeah, so DeathCare BC, I started building it when I was still working for a corporate funeral home. And I basically started out because there was stuff that I wanted to say that wasn't really in line with the corporate structure. And I was in management. I had a really good job, a lot of responsibilities, but they're not big on advocacy and they're not big on activism.
No.
And especially from a local level. So the reason it's DeathCare BC was because I went really intentionally and I went, what is my legislative jurisdiction? Like, what do I know about?
Yeah.
What am I licensed to talk about? And that's really British Columbia. And there's certain stuff that I know about other areas in Canada and in the States. And there's just universal truths about death care, which is why I can talk to you and I know what we're talking about.
Right.
But when it came down to advocacy work and education, I chose to be regionally focused so that I could be really specific.
I mean, I do. It's like you're going to be the expert in your area and starting from there and blossoming out. Like, I love how you were very intentional about that. That is super duper smart.
And it, like, I'm sure anybody who's worked for a corporation understands that, sometimes you just want to say stuff and you want to be building your ideas. So that was
a lot of times you have to.
It's, we don't have an official position on all these things that I really feel passionate about. So that's where it started. And now it's actually pretty awesome what it's resulted in, because now I've done a couple of sessions, because I've got sessions on my site. I've done one really great family session where I had a family of women, and we're on Zoom because it's COVID, and we spent about 2 hours and 15 minutes going through kind of what happens after someone dies in BC, and they had gone through a very close loss within the last few years. It was cancer, and it had been really untimely and difficult. So there was a lot of stuff we were working out, but the point of my time with them was really to explain kind of the nuts and bolts of, these are all the options. This is kind of what has to happen. This is what you can kind of expect in terms of cost. This is how much you can plan ahead of time. Like really pragmatically going through it, and then getting into sort of like diving a little deeper every once in a while when we needed to. And so that's DeathCare BC is awesome for that, because it's almost like being able to funeral direct without, without anyone having died, and without doing a pre-plan. And, it's purely just talking about all this information that I strive for that to be common knowledge.
Right.
Like,
right.
Yeah. It would just make everyone's lives so much easier if they just knew what to do.
Yeah.
So that's what DeathCare BC is. It's a platform for my advocacy work, which is I want more after death options in BC. We don't have alkaline hydrolysis. We don't have human composting. We've got very limited options for burial.
Oh, and
So there's
so you don't have alkaline hydrolysis in BC yet?
no.
I was very surprised that Georgia is one of the states that has it. I mean, look at us being progressive. I mean, so.
I know. It's like, I think half of the states, I think, have it legalized, but there's only 3 provinces that have it.
Okay.
But we're, like I said to you the other day, like we're at 85 or 90% cremation, and they're all flame cremation. And we're kind of like a sort of green province, but it's just this huge blind spot. So yeah, that's one area where I'm really vocal. And yeah, so DeathCare BC, I think at this stage is really somewhere where if somebody has questions about death services in our province, they can talk to me there without feeling like they're beholden to the funeral home that I own and work at.
Yeah, they're gonna get the heavy sell, and they're gonna need to make a decision.
And if they want to go to KORU, they can, but they don't have to. So it's kind of a spiritual difference in a way.
Well, and if you had that opportunity with so many more families, couples, what have you, think of, how much better prepared people would be. And I know we were talking about this the other day about what's on the horizon and how unprepared we are, and looking at what I'm calling the silver tsunami. And I think, did you have a different word for it? I couldn't remember.
No, just the peak career time. Yeah. No, just I've got in Canada, at least in 2031, a quarter of our population will be 65.
Yeah.
So it's a huge number for, we're not a huge country, but from an infrastructure perspective, it's enormous.
Yeah. And you sort of got a sneak peek of what it could look like, unfortunately, over the summer.
Yeah, the heat dome was I think it was the thing that I've taken away from the heat dome, which caused in our metropolitan area was over 500 deaths over like a 4-day period. It was a hugely traumatic incident. The takeaway for me is that a lot of those deaths were elders.
Right.
It was a lot of people who didn't have access. We're not in an area that has air-conditioned units.
Right.
We're supposed to be pretty temperate. But it was just too much too quickly, and people didn't realize how hot they were. And so it was affected disproportionately elderly people. So that takeaway for me is that as our demographics age, I'm hoping that we're going to evolve our infrastructure to support, the incoming flux. But the part of it to me is that right now that was 500 deaths. In 10 years, in 20 years, when it's an even larger percentage of our population that are vulnerable elderly folk, and if we have a heat dome or we have an earthquake or we have, our province is getting totally ravaged by forest fires right now.
Right.
And so as these climate conditions change and we have a bigger portion of the population that need assistance, I just don't know what we're going to do. And from my side of the business, I know, we will have to find somewhere for these bodies to go. And I did a project on emergency management for my license. And I know what the techniques are for temporary body management, but it's all temporary and it's a massive amount of labor. And it's all sort of, we should be preparing more. We we should be building more morgues.
Yeah.
Realistically.
Yeah, because that's what I wanted to get into. If you could give people listening, like, just a couple of things that you felt were really stressing the infrastructure, you know, like.
Yeah, the first part would be just who is receiving the bodies.
Right.
So who
Okay.
are the staff that are able, because the true frontline people, and I'm a funeral director and embalmer, but we use a transfer service to receive our bodies most of the time.
Right.
And so those are people who are working in a completely different area of death care, who their entire job is driving around and picking people up from home deaths. Right. And I know one of the larger corporate groups in Vancouver, in one of those evenings, they had 70 calls, I believe it was, between like midnight and 7 a.m. They had 70 calls. And that's the capacity of one of their morgues. Like it's, and those were all home deaths as well. So these staff were having to go 10 homes an hour, which obviously they couldn't do.
Right.
And you're going into all different types of situations when you go into homes. If you live in Vancouver, you could be going to a one-story walk-up, or you could be going to the 20th floor of an apartment building, right, and you have no idea. So that was the first area affected. The transfer staff were just completely overwhelmed for that whole period of time. It was insanity. And then the second wave of essentially the burden of that fell on the paperwork and the logistical process that these were all coroner deaths.
Yeah.
So the coroner had to look into each of these heat-related deaths and determine what happened. Yeah. And so it took weeks. And so during that time, it was taking 2 to 3 weeks for a body to be released by the coroner. And so people weren't able to have cremations. They weren't able to have burials.
Yeah.
We couldn't even get the coroners on the phone. And
because they were so completely,
they were totally swamped. Yeah. And, and another related factor in that was just some really bad luck. That one of the satellite coroner's offices in another area of the province, a construction crane collapsed, and they had to evacuate out of their office for 4 days, and there was a couple of deaths there as well. And so it was really bad timing. A lot of things happened at once, and I still feel for the coroner service. I was trying to be really nice to them on the phone because they've got a hard job, but that paperwork part of it, it's not efficient either. And this is total tangent, but one of the things that I know when Canada was trying to receive Afghan interpreters, and they were saying that part of the reason that it took so long to get people out and that they were just not doing it was because of paperwork.
Yeah.
The immigration paperwork was this whole thing. And so I'm like, we need to look at the systems and make them more efficient.
I mean,
if it's threatening people's lives or well-being, just make it better, because bureaucracy is no excuse for trauma.
It's not. And I mean, that's in essence why one of the reasons I created my business is because grief and paperwork shouldn't go together. And,
no.
The days are short, or the days are long, life is short, but the paperwork is forever. That's just how I feel. In managing the business of death, and it's really cruel. And not only to have that bureaucracy immediately when the death occurs, and then the following weeks, but months down the road. So I hear you, sister, preach. Well,
this is the thing. This is part of the logistics that, for whatever reason, in North America, whether you're in Georgia or BC, this is the pain point. And I think in 10 years, we have the next 10 years to really improve the way that we do things in this one specific area, because when they do have to make things move quickly, they do. And I've seen really incredibly compassionate moves from coroner services and hospitals and whatnot, especially with tragic loss. will move mountains and make things happen in a matter of a day or two, because they go, oh my God, this situation, this poor family. And then we do whatever we need to do to turn the gears to give them some sort of relief from what they're going
through. So we know it's possible. It's just burning things
make it
down,
possible for everybody.
To a place, that it's just more, it's just nicer. You know, we just need a nicer system for that. So.
Yeah, and I know at least in where I am, the barrier is that we have a public healthcare system in a completely private death industry.
Yeah.
And I know you've got a much more complex healthcare system over there, and also a private death industry. And so how do we close that gap between health service providers and death service providers?
I thought that was such an interesting point that you made, and I had never thought of it that way, of how Canada is set up with their healthcare, and then someone dies and it's just rip the Band-Aid off and it's literally over, and then you have to transfer over into the private. So that was such an interesting point. And whereas here, I wouldn't say we're more equipped to it or we're more used to it, because people still don't know what to do when someone dies. But maybe
I think that it's the expectation that you're responsible for it. I think in Canada, we're so lucky that, you go to the emergency room, or you go over, you can get basic healthcare needs met very in a straightforward way, and the system sort of looks after you. But that's the thing, it's so unusual in a system that's like that, that's publicly funded, to then someone dies and within 2 hours you're expected to know where their body's going, and you're expected to pay for it too. And there's no all of it. All of a sudden you're standing and hopefully somewhere comfortable and
holding the proverbial bag and being like, wait, what? I'm in charge here? So,
yeah. And thankfully, hospice workers do a great job of at least planting the seed with families. So they usually know where they're going to call by the time it happens. Long-term care, they usually plant the seed as well of like, who are you going to call? But those not necessarily always in palliative or home care or sudden death, people usually have no idea what to do.
I know. I hear you. So, as I wrote in my post promoting this, our talk tonight, aside when you're not funeral directing, educating, embalming, being the icon that you are, you like to spend time in that inflatable pink casket. Can we just break this down? I want to hear more about this, because it really is like #goals for that picture. It is amazing.
It's so funny, because I know I saw one of the people whose names popped up is Kelly, and that's one of my dear best friend's moms.
Okay.
Who also is a nurse who works in hospice. And her daughter, Sky, gave me that casket for my birthday this year. And so she lives on the other side of the country. And so it just came by mail. And it was like this huge clunky thing. And it said like F Summer on the side of it. I was like, oh my God. And so those photos were taken by another friend of mine who's a funeral director. And it was the day before my birthday. And so I turned 30, in case anyone's keeping track.
Okay, so over the hill, totally. Yeah.
I'm over that particular hump, but it feels so good. Like aging. Highly recommend aging. Don't do the other.
I know.
I've seen both sides, actually. It comes for everybody. But and so that part of the ocean where that photo is taken, it's like one of my favorite spots. And so I'm there a lot, actually. And
how many
we're so lucky.
Turn with the inflatable pink casket?
The which, sorry?
I said, how many heads did you turn with the inflatable pink casket?
That was it was early enough like it was still springy enough. It was in May, and so there weren't as many people hanging at the beach. There was definitely enough of them that it was perplexing for people. But no one else was brave enough to actually be in the water at that point. So I think that I was turning more heads. Yeah, I was turning heads being in the ocean in May. But that was a friend of mine who you may have seen on here. She's part of Be Ceremonial. Her name's Megan Sheldon, and she's amazing. But she's been leading cold dips into the ocean on Sundays. So I've been swimming since April, I think.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely nuts. So yeah.
Yeah, I was in the Pacific Northwest just last month and got some taste of those glacial waters and the ocean. It's not like here in the South. Totally different.
No, it's not for all the time, but the cold dips are nice. Like it's a refreshing, and also Megan is everything she does is just like steeped in meaning, and so doing things with her and around her just makes you feel like you're some sort of mystical person. So
gosh. All right, I want to do one of these cold dips. I'm gonna have to. I think they just opened up flights. We can fly into Vancouver now. So
yeah, you guys can come here. We can't go there overland, but you guys can come here.
All right, well done. Dang it! I wish they had opened it up. I was just there like 3 weeks ago, so could have just.
Yeah, actually, we're doing an end of life provider retreat in October, and it's going to be absolutely magical because everything she does is magical. So it would be so amazing if you could be there.
I'm gonna have to get the dates. We'll have a little off camera talk about that.
Yeah, I'll send you a thing because I feel really fortunate where we are in Vancouver, and I would just sort of plug everybody because there's a little movement growing here, and I'm just a part of it. But it's so needed, and I know that you're a part of it. I'm so grateful for all this.
Oh my gosh. No, I'm so glad to just be. I think it's such a wonderful community. I've met so many wonderful, amazing people, and we're all very giving and caring, and there is enough sand in the sandbox to go around, and I think we're all stronger together than we are apart.
Yeah.
So
that's a huge thing, actually. I'm saying that to people all the time because there is a lot of death startups and there's a lot of death work happening.
Yeah.
And everyone's kind of carving out their little area, but I always, over and over, it's all hands on deck. I'm like, the more the merrier.
Absolutely.
You know, everyone, like it's all needed.
Yes.
And just the comfort, even being able to say the word death is hard for some people. So,
it is hard. So people are like, what? And I'm like, I know. I'm a little bit too, I use that word probably a little bit too much for other people's comfort, but
it's part of normalizing it. And like, I really think it's a responsibility if you're someone who has sort of peeked behind the curtain and seen what's there. And if you're someone who's really going down that path, then I do see it as a bit of a responsibility to share that out. And because there's going to be so much work to go around, it
is going to be all hands on deck. No.
Yeah, and there's a lot of competing in these spaces. And, I think if we end up duplicating each other's work, that's not very productive either.
No,
so
no.
I would love to have some sort of symposium at some point.
Everybody on here, let us know if you're interested. Yes, love to put together some symposium on this. Yeah, we could totally start that. So
let's be coordinated, and it's about how to bridge between this sort of still kind of insulated death network of people, and so we're all sort of talking to each other. How do we loop people from other areas meaningfully into it? How do we get the nurses interested? How do we get home care aid
Yeah.
people, or whatever you call them where you're from,
Yeah.
all these people who are doing care with the elderly
Yes.
deserve and need to be a part of these conversations.
Absolutely. Yes.
And home
1,000%
people,
agree.
yeah, anybody,
Yeah.
anyone supporting anybody.
Yeah.
It's mortal people, but
Yeah.
we got to be focused though. Just because everyone needs to know it doesn't mean that everyone's going to jump in.
No, they're not. And, you know, sometimes I feel like these IG lives are existing in a vacuum and we're just talking, you know, just amongst ourselves. But
Yeah,
we keep talking. The more we talk, it'll eventually start to creep out.
it'll permeate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's all you can really do. Like I try really hard to intentionally talk to people who are not funeral directors
Yes.
and
Yes.
people. You know, go to your local networking thing. Talk to accountants.
Yeah.
Talk to whoever, like teachers, lawyers, like all these people who need to be involved in improving death literacy at the end of the day.
Exactly. When I see EasyNet's on here and they're going to be doing a campaign, they're a password manager and digital vault startup in Portland. And if you haven't met Erin from EasyNet, you need to meet her. But they're going to be doing, in collaboration with National Estate Planning Month in October, doing a 55 Alive campaign. So to try to make the hashtag 55 Alive go viral. So encourage people to do more pre-planning, more talking. So we'll have to get you in on the DL on that. So, but how can people learn more about the icon Emily Bootle at DeathCare BC?
Yeah, so anyone who wants to talk to me ever, deathcarebc.ca is my site, and that's really, you know, pretty accessible to contact me through there. And I genuinely believe in the power of just short conversations or long ones, but like just if you have questions about something to ask, and then, you know, a lot of it's searching on your own, but I find really even just small conversations can be very powerful. So that's a good place to just sort of wax about death care stuff. Oh, and that's Sky. Hey, Sky is the one. She's the one who got me the casket. she bought me the pink casket.
I want one, Sky. Just FYI, I'll be expecting one sent to Atlanta. Just FYI. So
yeah, if you come here, I will blow that up.
All right,
like,
let's do a photo shoot. It's gonna happen. Yeah, headshots of the inflatable pink casket.
Absolutely. And the other way people, if there's local people who are actually interested in working with me in my capacity as a funeral director, planning ahead or doing anything, it's KORU Cremation, burial ceremony. And so it's KORUCremation.com, KORU.
KORU. Okay.
Yeah, which is a Maori word because my partner's dad, or my business partner's dad, is Maori. And so she's very firmly connected to her history, and koru is a word. It means basically cycle. It's returning to the beginning.
That. It's a beautiful word. It's a really beautiful word.
Yeah, and she's got all these cool Maori things at the office, and she is a rad, like, absolute groundbreaking person. She has laid all the groundwork that I now get to walk on. So
that's so special and so powerful. I'm so glad that you guys have found each other and are just, you know, hashtag world domination together there.
She doesn't have Instagram, but she's supportive. So.
Well, yeah. We won't hold that against her, but tell her it's time to get on. No, I'm just kidding. But so everybody, if you want to reach out to Emily at DeathCare BC, at KORU, we'll put her information in when I upload this to the IG. And if you want to learn more about Black Dress Consultants and how I can help you manage the unavoidable logistics of after loss or end of life, as we talked about the business of dying, just DM me as well. And Emily, I'm gonna be packing my bag for our photo shoot and our retreat and all the things, and
Oh, I'm going to be sending you details in like 2 seconds. So. That's
Awesome.
the first thing
I
I'm
can't
doing.
wait. It's happening, folks. So we're taking a dip. Emily, thank you so much. This has been so good,
Thank you.
so just wonderful, and I always love these conversations, and just appreciate
Thank
all of
you.
your work and all of your advocacy and education and your efforts for world domination. Just love it.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for the platform, and thank you for calling me iconic, because that's really.
Hey, listen, that wasn't my word. That was somebody else's word. So I'm just saying that you heard it from the folks tonight. So anyway, thank you, everybody. You'll have a good Wednesday, and I look forward to talking again soon.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.